All right, guys, welcome
Yep.
to another crypto live stream. Tonight, we are going to talk about why we think it's going to be possible for Bitcoin to pass its all time highs within the next couple of weeks. And on top of that, we're also going to be discussing other things like some altcoins and some really important news that's happening in the background. Maddie, anything you want to add to that?
Nothing in particular, but I am excited because I think over the next couple of weeks, the data is suggesting that we could see some crazy, crazy money flowing into the crypto market. I mean, it's never a guarantee, but at the same time, the data is suggesting otherwise. And I'm interested to see how that plays out over the next couple of weeks, as we just mentioned, because Bitcoin is very, very close to its all time high, approximately $5,000.
Looking very, very exciting, guys. So make sure you watch this one to the end. We're going to cover lots of data tonight, things you don't want to miss. If you were on last week's call, I do just want to say a quick congratulations. We managed to share a trade on SEI. If you were watching closely, towards the end, we spoke about SEI token. If you can see here on Friday, when was it? June the 20th. That's when we spoke about SEI. Since then, SEI actually had pumped about, we'll call it about 70 to 75%. So big congratulations if any of you happen to take that trade. Massive gains to be made. We're going to look at some more charts on SEI shortly. But first, let's get into the alpha. First off, crypto czar David Sachs. He's come out and said that July will be a big month. Matty, we ready for July? What's happening in July? Let's get into some of this data, mate.
Mate, well, we've passed the whole Sally May go away over the last couple of months.
We
So
have.
now we're into July, and there's the opportunity now comes from the Fed, is what I'm thinking,
Yeah,
right?
from the
And it's
pivot.
what we've sort of been discussing. We've been focusing on Empire a hell of a lot.
Yeah,
And what we're looking at the moment is really interest rates, right?
interest
Interest
rates.
rates coming down, hopefully within the next couple of months at the latest.
Yep.
Anyway, latest is we're predicting September, right?
Well, we are predicting September. There's a big chance now in September. I'm going to show you guys some of that data. And there's one thing that's really important is, and like we were saying last week, is the crypto markets, they hate geopolitical tensions.
Yes.
They hate times when there's uncertainty. It just doesn't work. And from what we've seen this week, we've had a nice turn in events. Let's hope it all stays like that. We can see right now, ceasefire is now in effect. Iran and Israel, they've stopped firing at each other for now. Let's
Are you
hope.
surprised that this just happened
I,
so quick?
I can't believe it. Like, it was way too quick.
Like I was almost shocked. I was like, "Hey, is this actually legitimate or not?"
Yeah, and then out of nowhere, it just bang. It's starting to once again. It's just starting to fade out, man, which is really good. So really, really exciting. We're also seeing some crazy bullish Bitcoin news. Some of it that you guys may have missed throughout the week, and that's what we want to really cover here today, guys. Make sure if you are here, drop a comment and smash that like button for us. If we do get more than 50 likes on this stream, we're going to drop some exclusive alpha in here. I can see how many have we got so far. How many people have liked this stream? I'm going to be following this closely right now. 4 people watching, 0 likes. Fuck, we
Oh, we're
doing that.
doing it tough.
We must be doing a shit job. So
We got extra. We got 3 extra subscribers though. So,
Thank you,
so we're
guys.
on the up.
So first off, what we see is previously the Fed was quite hawkish and well previously dovish, and we weren't thinking that we're going to get a rate cut. Now, what the importance of that is that when we do get rate cuts, that tends to kick off bull markets. If we go back, we take a look at the price of Bitcoin coming into, was it middle last year? Throughout this time, it was a very similar period where the Fed was saying no rate cuts, no rate cuts, no rate cuts. And then what happened towards September last year? We got a interest rate cut. The way this works is as soon as we get interest rate cuts, what we find is the liquidity in the markets expand, more money comes into circulation. And from that, that tends to lead a bit of a pump within the crypto market and specifically as well within the altcoins. Now, what we saw when we got the last rate cut was Bitcoin rallied from around the lows of, let's say, 50,000, coming up to where we found our current all-time high at around $110,000. Looking really exciting, Matty. What do you think?
Hey, if you want to bring up my chart for a second, because I'm thinking exactly what you're thinking. We are
Yeah.
very, very close. We could be on here now.
Before we look at the charts,
All
let's
right.
have a look at a little bit more data
You want more
because
data?
there's a
You
bit
like
more to
data. I
go
like
with it. I love
charts.
data. I'm a data guy. Now, despite the war, which has now ended, and all the FUD that was happening in the background, we also saw Bitcoin spot ETFs bring in $350 million of inflows. And what that tells me now is that Bitcoin is moving from something that's extremely risky all the way to now something that's like a more seasoned asset, right? Something that's a little bit more, a little bit less volatile, something that's a little bit more stable than what it once previously was. And that shows strength.
With what you're saying is what I agree with. And the
Yep.
reason I agree with it is for one big reason. If you look at the market at the moment, what continues to remain stable?
Well, at the minute, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, right?
Bitcoin.
And if you look at the Bitcoin dominance continues to rise. However, the altcoins, even though Bitcoin is remaining stable, and even we saw it the last couple of days, sorry, the alt market still got smashed again,
Yeah.
right? We had that small dump that happened on Bitcoin, and alts dropped like I think it was like 7 or 8%. They rallied straight back up, but they went down to those DCA points that we were sort of talking about last week.
They did. We got some good entries last week.
We did have some good entries. But the big thing here I'm really astounded with is the fact that Bitcoin is actually holding up. And we haven't seen that all too well over the last, say, probably 3 or 4 weeks with all the volatility.
No, we
So
haven't.
now with Bitcoin holding up, and like you're saying, a little bit more risk on, we're starting to get a little bit of warm up here. I'm actually excited at the fact that Bitcoin is maintaining its composure.
100%. Well, I reckon this is part of the reason why, and this is something that I think part of the reason why I think that we could see some all-time highs coming really soon. So first off, we have Jerome Powell, the guy who makes up the decisions about the interest rates. He's saying right now that upcoming trade deals, we've been waiting for some trade deals from the US, that could allow for those rate cuts to come. And what they're more or less predicting now, a lot of people on Twitter are predicting that rate cuts will be coming in July. Now, we've also heard from another man of the Fed, Fed Waller, and he's come out and said himself now that interest rates could begin as early as July, and that's getting the market a bit excited, a bit anticipating for rate cuts. I know a lot of us have been waiting for all of that. And based on the CME's FedWatch tool, this is the official FedWatch tool that we all use to kind of gauge what the rates are going to be. We can see that right now, there's currently a 73% chance we're going to drop to around 400 points, which indicates us a 92.6% chance of that rate cut by 17th of September 2025. So,
Do you know what's interesting about that?
what was
If you
that?
go back a month ago, that was completely like no
Oh, that
rate
was at
cut.
like 40%.
There was no
Yeah,
rate cut.
no,
It was completely out the door. Whoop,
Oh,
inflation, those rates came out. Everyone's
yeah.
like, "Yep, no, that's out the gate. See you later."
I remember because I covered that on
Complete
my
flip.
my Tuesday night
Yeah,
fundamentals call for our premium
exactly.
members, and I said, "Watch this change," and that's done a complete backflip now. That is looking really, really good. So the odds of an interest rate cut now are sitting at around the 94% chance. Now, before we start looking at the charts and going to altcoins and all other kinds of topics of the day, which we want to basically set you guys up for a bullish July, what we sorry, we're in June. Yeah, bullish July. I'm really bad at my months. Good with numbers, good with crypto. I can't tell you the time if my life depended on it. But what I did last time around was I set myself a horizontal line when I thought interest rates were going to be cut.
Yep.
And what I did, and this is, I'm not telling you guys to go ahead and do this. Obviously, we're not. This is not financial advice. None of this. More or less, I'm just telling you guys how I set myself up to make the big win. And what I did in this instance was I actually went and drew another one this time round. You can see here September, and I've put it for a little bit before. I've done the 2nd of September, and I've done that for a reason because, look, I think that if the markets now know that there's a 92.8% chance of a rate cut,
Yep.
I think we can both agree that coming into that event, maybe even a few weeks prior to that, the markets are going to start pricing that rate cut in. Yeah?
Yes.
You
Yep.
agree?
I agree. I mean, the market loves to front run it. We knew when the Bitcoin ETF was coming out that to front run that.
Yep.
Not wait for the news and then buy.
No.
Buy the rumor, sell the news.
That's right. And
Rule 101 in crypto.
guys, if you're getting some value here, please make sure to smash that like button. Also consider there's a little bell button. If you press that, it'll let you guys know every time we've gone live. So just before I pass the charts over to Maddie.
I did want to drop a piece of data.
You
A little
did?
bit left field. I also want to drop it.
We're gonna have a
I'll drop it at the end.
All right, done.
It's pretty golden. It
If
worked with me
if you've got to
yesterday.
do with you and your Pepe trade.
No, Pepe. No, Pepe is a separate one. We'll cover that. That's on the list.
So going back here, what I can see here is September the 2nd. I am now starting to look for all of my entries within this zone. Now, when I say zone, I'm not looking for price-related targets. Look, I do think that right now, as we're starting to test those all-time highs, we could see a breakout coming very, very soon.
Are you thinking sub 100K?
I'm not thinking sub 100K. I'm thinking we hit all-time highs pretty soon. But there is a lot of bearish divergence on the chart right now. So if we do get any kind of pullbacks, then to me personally, that's going to be a big buy the dip opportunity, I'm going to be buying the living fuck out of that.
Loading
Straight
the
honest with
rocket,
you,
you
I will
reckon?
be loading my rocket, getting ready for what's coming because honestly, I want to be in a fat bag of positions coming into September so I can get that big leg up and take massive advantage to that. But Matty,
You know what's front running in a lot of this?
what's front running a lot of it? Give us a look.
All right. So the US 500 has hit all-time highs.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when I look at this and I go, the US 500 is in all-time highs, to me, that's a little bit of an indicator that the risk on appetite is coming back.
Okay.
Now, we also had, and I was looking at it, Mrs. Nancy Pelosi buying up stocks again over this week. I don't know if you saw, she bought a big fat bag of Nvidia.
Did she?
Yep.
Again?
Yep, sold off a bunch and has reinvested into that.
How is that not illegal, man? How is that not illegal?
So if you want to go have a look at that one, that's an interesting one. And I was looking at Kathy Wood, who manages ARK Investments. She's actually moved a lot of money, into innovative stocks and innovation. So that to me is telling me that, hey, there is somewhat of a risk on environment starting to come into play because without that approach and without that confidence, you're not moving your money into risk on environments. So that for me is quite interesting. You can see here, guys, we're basically right at the tip of that volumetric order zone. I honestly predict tonight, there's not really much bearish news that I can see coming out. We were talking about it earlier on, said that the news has been relatively stable since the whole Iran ceasefire and Donald Trump swearing on live Twitter,
I can't
on
believe
live
that.
X. We call him Daddy now, just came out and decided to just kick a tantrum. Now we're seeing the all-time highs on the US 500. And to me, that's sort of front running what we could potentially see even more risk on environment. I'll show you guys what I'm looking at Bitcoin right now because this chart here is relatively simple, relatively easy to look at. Now, you can see here, we're basically starting to get back to this breakout zone. Now, last night we had a bit of a retest on this area. You can see this yellow box at the top of the range here, guys. But now we're actually holding above. So tonight, whilst we're at our event, could be quite fun.
Yeah, we got our Empire monthly meetup this tonight. Yeah,
we do have our Empire monthly meetup, and that's at in Melbourne CBD. So if you are around, more than welcome to join. But you can see here, the moment we start to get candle closures above this 107K 300 zone, I think we're going to start to push that all-time high. And to be completely honest, there is potential, I believe right now, that tonight we could see a very, very big leg up from the US market. I'm thinking about 2.5%, 3% back into that premium zone because we did hold there last night.
Ooh.
So look, I'm looking for some bags at the moment, won't lie. I'm looking at a couple of trading opportunities. We can go through them in a little while. But for me right now, Bitcoin is looking optimistic. I don't see any reason for a significant pullback unless we get some major sell-off all of a sudden.
What's one thing that could cause a pullback?
Mr. Donald Trump opening his mouth.
Oh, I think
saying the wrong thing.
Let's take a look at that because whilst that is the bullish case, right? Whilst we are seeing that, pretty much.
If you tell me there's tariffs coming out, I'm going to sell up the shop and we're done.
Whilst we are pretty much guaranteed for the rate cuts to come very, very soon, and that is definitely bullish, there is one thing that a lot of people have forgotten about. Another thing that I did cover on my Monday or Tuesday night call. It was Monday this week, though. What we need to be aware of is that 90 days ago, Donald Trump went out and put a pause on the tariffs. And if we go back and have a look at what the S&P 500 did, when those tariffs were announced, we saw the S&P 500 dump and Bitcoin collapsed with it. It actually dumped very, very hard. We can see here we dropped about 20% on the S&P 500. If we go and compare that to what that looked like on Bitcoin, we'll go April the 4th. Let's just take a quick squeeze.
As you're doing that, do you know that dump lines up perfectly with the weekly 50 EMA? The weekly 200 EMA. And every single time that has occurred, it is basically kicked off the next bull run.
Right. So what are you showing me right there? Give our viewers a rundown.
I'll give you guys a little bit of example here. Now you can see here this green line that you can see here is the 200 EMA. So I marked this down October 2025, potential bull run kickoff essentially. I don't know why I put 2025, but it should be in April. Yeah, I don't know why we're at October. So let me just tidy that one up for a second.
Anyway,
but going back over this. What says jumped into it. You can see here, guys, this trend line here, every time prices come back to here, it's kicked off basically the next bull run situation. October 2022, October 23. right? Keep going forward all the way back to essentially March 2020. So I've been monitoring this closely. We've bounced off that again. The question is, and what I'm looking for, and we already have done, is the all-time high.
We have. And look, just going back to what I was saying, man, if we take a look here at Bitcoin, well, during that time of the tariffs, we actually got a 32% dump on Bitcoin. And that's bringing me a little bit of fears because now these tariffs are about to resurface the whole tariff narrative. And that's because a lot of these trade deals, well, they haven't been done. And whilst we had this 90-day period of stability, what's going to happen now coming into this tariff announcement when they come back? And look, the S&P is now 1,200 points higher than it was, and that obviously affected Bitcoin. But what will happen when this takes the spotlight again? Now, we are seeing some things come out of the US where Trump has apparently signed a trade deal with China. And that is bullish because China is one of the world's largest trading partners. And look, if look, this is my personal opinion, but if we saw Bitcoin dump 30% on the announcement of all of these trade wars, we know China's the biggest one. Given the fact that that's negotiated, I think at best maybe we could get a 15% dump on Bitcoin. That's if you exclude China. Like the rest of the world's the rest of the world, the trading partners, they're not really doing massive amounts of volume.
Mm.
China is really the number one when it comes to this, but it's not only China. What we're also seeing, I think I might have accidentally got out of the tab, is Europe. There's also something coming out of Europe now as well. Where did I go? Oh, no, all right, I can't find it. Anyway, Europe is also now considering doing. Oh, there it is, right there. Fuck. Europe is also saying that it's now ready to make a trade deal with the US. So let's put this into perspective. We tick off Europe. That's a lot of nations as a whole. We tick off we tick off China.
Yep.
Do I think we're going to get another 30% dump? No, I don't. I don't see it. I don't see it, especially if these two major nations have clarified, their issues. And then coming back to the trade war, well, one major thing that we need to look at is the flight radar. This is our signal when commercial flights are flying over the places where there's currently geopolitical tensions like Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Israel. Well, that's when we know there's geopolitical tensions because they close the airspace. What are we seeing right now? Can I open this up? My session timed out. Oh, my God. This is what happens when you prepare a live call early. Guys, if you're enjoying the alpha so far, please smash that like button. Share this video out far and wide. Drop a comment. Let us know. It helps us so much.
Before we jump into the flight radar, right?
Yeah.
Just wanted to point out a thing that we were talking about the other day.
Yeah. Look at that. Just quickly, we're seeing now, look, there's now flights over Iran. Not many, but there is a couple. We're seeing some over Iraq. We're seeing over Syria, Lebanon, Israel. The airports are now open. The tensions have died down. But go for it, Matty.
Exactly. I'm backing up exactly what you've said because remember last week we were talking about the tariffs.
Yeah.
And we're talking about how Trump uses them basically as a negotiation method. They are literally there to just initiate negotiation conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happened, right? China, yep, we're going to do a trade deal now. The EU, yep, we want to do a trade deal now.
Mhm.
That's essentially all they're being used for. The FUD that comes with it is astronomical.
Every time.
But every single time we know, hey, it's just a method of negotiations. So it's worked.
Yeah. It
is
has.
100%
And it has.
worked.
It's worked. If they've gotten to world peace, you see Trump now has gone for like the Nobel Prize.
It's
It's crazy.
I'm pretty dumbfounded about that one. I don't know. I'm actually interested if he nominated himself.
Probably.
I'm not even lying. I wonder if Trump nominated himself for the Nobel Prize. I don't know how it's done. I don't know. It's just a little bit sus.
Well, let's get into some of the alpha. All right. Now, if we don't get 20 likes, I'm not going to share any juicy. Guys, we're going to have to wait for those likes.
I've got some good setups.
I know. I mean, last week I gave you guys a coin that pumped 75%, and all you needed to do was like the video.
And I gave the perfect DCA average for Solana.
For Solana,
Bounced
I know, for
straight
Solana.
off.
So Solana, right now we're seeing that the ticker is ready. The ETF for Solana is pretty much days away. You know what else is days away at this current rate? Us sharing the alpha because we've only got 5 likes. I can't believe that. That's miserable. Anyway. No, we're going to G that up. But anyway, right. So let's talk about last bit about the economy. Really, is the Fed is now positioned to see on rate cuts. I think we're going to get them. Look, I think personally 60% chance we get them in July, 100% chance by September, no doubt. I can see the data 92% now. That's telling me that there's a very, very high chance.
I
You
don't
can
feel like there's much holding it back anymore.
No, I just want
Just
to see a big boom. We deserve it, man. We've been holding through all these dramas. I think we
a
all deserve
chop.
a massive Bitcoin run, and we want to see the altcoins. Now, to recap on last week, I gave you guys Say. Now, Say, doing really big things at the minute. We'll get Maddie to jump into the analysis in a second. But going back to what I said earlier, anyone who watched this live stream last week, one reason for you to subscribe was the fact that we called this before it pumped 75%. I legit told everyone about
Took
this. You can go
off.
back and watch our last week's live stream. And right at the end, I told you it's 20 cents. Now, what's happening with Say, you can see that right now the TVL is going up heavily. It's a top 15 chain by DEX volume. There's a lot happening on Say right now. And they're about to do what we call the Monad launch, which is going to allow for a parallel chain in Say. So some really big fundamentals, but probably the
Massive.
biggest fundamental of them all is over the week we saw the Genius bill get passed, which is the Act for Stablecoins, and that's going to allow for Say to also now have an ETF. And there's a lot of talk about an upcoming Say ETF, and that is what caused the big 75% pump. So I
But that's
basically
even news to me, guys. Even I'm getting some alpha on this one because I wasn't paying attention to that.
I gave you guys the alpha before it hit at all. And you can see that looking at the chart, look at the size of this massive range that we had. We had this really big accumulation range. And yeah, like I said last week, I told you guys down here, we had a bullish divergence. If I go back and see how that looked, there was really nice levels of divergence playing out whilst the price was coming down. It's not on this chart. I think it was on the 4-hour that I found it. Yeah, there it is. You can see here, price was making higher highs, equal lows, sorry. Wait, no, it wasn't. It was here Friday. Anyway, it was going up. I'm not going to skip too much into that, but it was pumping. And what we're seeing, yeah, we're seeing a nice breakout. If you go and compare this to some of the other coins like Sui, Sui did something really similar where we had this big consolidation phase before the massive breakout. And it's for this reason, that right now, mate, I'm bullish. I'm bullish as you can see here, like a nice consolidation on Sui before it had its major breakout. This was it right here. Where are we? Highlight this whole range. Delete this chart here. Right here like this. So, trend line tool. Mate, it's much harder doing this stuff live than isn't it? But anyway,
I do
so
have a chart on Say anyway, so
really nice level of sideways consolidation, a breakout, and then we absolutely pumped. And the rule of thumb with this is usually I like to aim for about the distance of the range. Usually is what we can get as the pump. And I think Say, let's talk about targets. I think last week I told you guys a target around 60 cents, and I think we could break this. I think we're going to all-time highs on Say. Not today.
straight out the
Not today.
gate.
I'm going to go straight out the gate.
to
Nah,
all-time highs.
I'm not going to go straight out the gate and
Dollar
turn around and
plus.
say to you guys that it's going to come today, because it's not. But what
Like
you're
it.
seeing here on Say is very early signs before even the grayscale ETF. Like basically, like remember GBTC and GETH before the actual
Yes,
proper
yes.
ETFs launched? You're basically there. You're at that point on Say, and it hasn't had its big run. The tech is good. Let's see where we go.
We're in it for the tech.
I think 60 cents will be a major target of mine. It's still 100% gain from now, but a 300% gain for our viewers that were on last week. Remember, though, guys, you cannot go wrong taking profits. You can be one of those guys who sits there and holds forever, waiting for this moon bag to hit 60 cents. Mate, if you're in profit, take it, man. Take some profit. I'm not going to give you guys financial advice, but also you need to lock in profits. Otherwise, there's no point being in this space. Be happy, take some profits off the board. Some people might even say, well, I'm going to take out what I initially put in, the rest of it, wherever it goes. Who cares? Because, I'm already in profit. That's where a lot of crypto traders go wrong. But show us your analysis, Maddie. I know you're busting to show us, and I think our viewers want to see it too. Let's just check. I want to see how many likes we're at so far, because this video needs to get trending on YouTube. And I think the alpha that we're about to drop, I think we kind of need to see that happen. 8 likes. All right.
All right, we're
All
getting
right, well,
there.
we are getting there. We're going to see some more likes. I want to see at least 20, guys, before we get into the real altcoin. So share this video, share it with your friends, drop it in your crypto chats with your mates. Help us out. We want to give you guys the alpha. Maddie, take it away.
I just wanted to ask you something. Do you reckon it's a safe haven token?
Say.
Yeah.
Fuck no.
Guys, there's a little bit of an inside joke today. Had an influencer on Instagram telling me that XRP is a safe haven token, and I laughed at him.
Tell him he's on drugs.
And he wasn't too happy about it. But guys, looking at Say at the moment, so similar to what Seds is saying, look, All-time highs, I always think are a very big prediction. But what I do think is at least another 26% in this. That is basically the mid-term range, I would say. You can see bumping up against resistance at the moment. After we clear that, it's really probably another 40% run. So that next big volumetric order zone. So that for me, when I'm looking at I say that's not unrealistic. You can see there is stacked orders above in that 45-cent zone, but I mean, that is still a lot of percentage points away. And once we start to clear that 0.23 level on the fib, might sound a little bit complicated, but just a really key level of resistance on the weekly, that does start to open the gate to some really big ranges. And that's the cool thing about is the ranges within these periods are quite large, right? The 2-3 here to the 3-8 level, it's another 40%. So this is quite an opportunistic coin, I would say.
Yeah, no, mate, it's
Plenty
looking
going on.
fantastic. Well, we do have one more coin that we want to share for you guys. Matty doesn't know about this one yet, but it's definitely one that we were talking about a lot between us. And guys, that is Ethereum. No doubt about it. Now, with this genius bill that has passed, I have never been so bullish on Ethereum in my whole life. Like,
It's funny you say that.
don't get me wrong.
I brought some just before.
You bought some? There was times where everyone was saying, oh, ETH is dead, ETH is dead. Bro, relax. ETH is not going nowhere. It's the second biggest crypto coin. But one of the really important things is that right now we can see that whales have bought nearly 1 million ETH in just one day. Now, with this stablecoin bill passing, we're now going to see the next set of regulation come where it comes to allowing for staking in the ETH ETF. And I think I've spoken about this on one of our live streams before, and I probably sound like a broken record, but we're here now. Like I said, if this passes and if that passes, but now it's actually passed. It's happening. Trump just needs to sign off on it. He will sign off on it. He said, get it on my desk ASAP. And as soon as this passes, I think we're going to see massive amounts of inflows into Ethereum. And Maddie, show us your charts on Ethereum, because you can see that there's a massive level of accumulation that has recently just taken place. And look,
I'll tell you guys one thing, right? The one thing I have noticed recently, you would have seen it today as well, and you keep seeing it consistently before I dive into this, is Ethereum tends to move very, very quickly at the moment, very, very fast, and pre a lot of other altcoins. Now, historically, we used to see that take effect a little bit slower in the market, but whenever we see these little pumps at the moment, Ethereum instantly 3% candle.
yep.
And that there has me again watching it and following it. A, because of the data. B, because of how fast it's starting to move. That's not normal for Ethereum to do something like that. But it has only been taking place realistically since this last pump in on the 8th of May, when we started to get a bit of this news coming out of the Ethereum staking and so forth, that we saw these large purchase of Ethereum coming in. Now, two interesting things that have happened on this chart. And going back to, you can see basically this is a very, very strong level all the way back to August 2024. But if you recall last week on our call, we we're talking about this. And I said, it wouldn't surprise me if we see Ethereum back towards that $2,000, $2,100 mark. We got there. We got that dip.
Yep.
Right? That falls in line with the dip that we had on Solana for that DCA point around that $124, $125 mark.
Hey, that hit perfectly. I bought, yeah, Solana.
My chart, it is to an absolute T.
Share that one next.
And same with Dot. Dot straight down to that $3 mark.
That's
bang, straight back
bro.
up. I told you. All right, a little bit of back. Me and Seds have a bit of a bet on that one. So, guys.
Who here's used Polkadot ecosystem? Can you let us know in the chat? Have you used the Dot wallet? Just let us know in the chat, yes or no. Just a simple Y or N even. Like, it's not even that much effort. Just let us know it's shit.
Whacking on back on ETH for a second.
All right.
I want to show the guys here quickly. So this is what I'm seeing on Ethereum at the moment, guys. All right. You can see we've had this dip into this range. We've actually reaccumulated towards that support level. Looking for that clear retest above that 200 EMA gives us a percentage of about 13% move within that zone. For me, 13%, 10x, 130%.
Call it a day. Well, I've got something much, much bigger. Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Matty. Like, I agree. Your analysis and my analysis is almost identical. Where, one thing that I like to see, I'm just going to bring up my chart.
I just don't like to call crazy numbers. I like to take it periodically. One resistance gets taken, we take the next one. We move to the next one.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But let's just take a quick look, because I did do some research for you guys. We went and did my due diligence, and we can see right now, like, exactly the same thing. on where are we here? Said screen, said, got to use my stream box here. But we had this massive sideways range, and what this allowed for was the big institutions to set some orders. So you can see that here people were buying, 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 stop losses were set below. And as we got a nice, fat, juicy liquidation level there, what did the institutions do? They sent the price down and they collected everyone's orders. Now, for me, um, for me, I want to see this reclaim back above 2470 level. A reclaim of that, and I think we're going to go like this. We're going to go like this, and boom. And look, personally, I think $3,000 level is easily achievable. If you do jump onto the Empire platform, I did actually put out a article. I made a reel about it as well, but I'll put out a nice article here where we're talking about what are the realistic predictions. And look, we do have more than one ETF that's currently going for approval. I think the staking ETF with ETH, that's going to send ETH absolutely bonkers, and that'll drive up other staking coins within the ETH ecosystem, especially coins like Aave and MKR. I think those two right there, and CRV as well. Look at Aave today. Just it's currently up 3%. It's not looking too bad at all. Keeping your eyes on Aave. But we're also seeing right now that there's going to be there is a whole bunch more of crypto ETFs that are currently being filed for XRP, Solana, and you can see they have a 90 to 95% chance of approval, with Solana looking at potentially being approved in July. Now, I ran some numbers and I said, well, what's going to be the expected price impact by asset? And this is something I shared with our community. And we looked at Solana and we said, well, look, if the Solana ETF draws in between $3 to $6 billion in inflows, with the ETF approval rates at 91%, I don't think it's Solana at $200 price target. I think is not unrealistic at all. I think we could go much, much higher, and that's based on just these numbers in accordance to the inflows. I think once the hype comes in, staking comes in, I see Solana going much, much higher, probably around the $250 mark. Personally, that'll be my first stop. We'll come back and reevaluate that there. But Maddie, show us your entries. What did you get?
I'll show you guys what I got going on here. So let me just bring up my other chart. So what I was explaining last week on Solana, and I
It
think
played out perfectly,
played it to an absolute T.
like to a bee's dick of an entry.
So now I'm just watching for the next high low to kick in. We need to retake this zone. But you see here, I marked down my DCA point. So we got this DCA point right to an absolute T. You can see right there to the wick, $126. The deepest I was thinking for Solana was 120. Big rally off there, big morning star candle. And now we're sort of looking and waiting, going, hey, well, if we start to reclaim some of these zones, this $140 mark, realistically, we can push to 150. We retake that and we start to take out each level as it goes. This here, and the way I was looking at it, and we're going real basic here with the TA, but if you look in here, you've basically got one big bull flag that's bounced straight off the 618 and basically liquidated everyone with that wick below.
For the retail at home, they're new and don't know any what these numbers mean.
This here, right,
give them
guys,
a very easy overview.
I'm going to tell you a little bit of overview. All right. So basically, when you get these large pumps in the market, you see that we've seen these big run-ups. You typically have then people come in, they sell, they take profit. Now, these levels here that you see, 38, 50, 618, they might sound complicated, but essentially they're just key numbers of basically price coming down to those points, which are support. So essentially you say price has gone up 100%, it's now retraced basically back down 61%. People see that as an opportunity to buy at a discounted price. So psychologically they come in, they step in and they buy at those key levels. So I could easily just remove this as well. And you can see prices just bounced off this little zone here, making it really, really simple.
So, Matty, where's the next trade opportunity? What are we waiting for right now? Are you waiting for Solana to pull back a little bit more? What's your analysis?
Look, I don't think we're going to get much of a pullback.
No?
No, look, I have been considering it. I have been looking at opening futures long positions.
Yeah.
I don't like opening midway through the range. However, what I am looking for, like I was just saying, is that higher low, that market structure change on the smaller time frames to give me my entry. So then I can push up above the resistance. I don't want to wait essentially to buy in up here in the hope that we then break out.
Yeah.
Because then you're buying into resistance. You've got a strong possibility of it getting rejected.
Yep.
So right now, I'm just waiting for the perfect time. I'm waiting to see what the US happens. London just opened, or they open up in a couple of hours. And I want to watch and see how that plays out because we always get that session change of volatility.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We've been
Well,
monitoring that very closely.
I'll show you my analysis. So I managed to see this blue zone here. That was what I explained last week. I managed to get the dip, but I only got my first entry. I wanted to buy a little bit here. I wanted to get a little bit more around the $110 mark. Didn't make it that deep. What I can see now is there is a nice level of resistance that we are approaching on that daily level. I do want to see this come up and flip that into a level of support, and then I will be getting my entries ready to send that. And you can see the first target there I'm looking at is around $202, and that's based on the analysis I did before. That's a Solana
Full
to the
send.
US dollar pair. So that's a really good one. And also, yeah, Ethereum. Once again, Ethereum, I'm looking at the same thing. Guys, if you have not yet taken the chance to subscribe, please smash subscribe. Put the bell notification on so you're alerted every time we go live. We're going to be dropping heaps of alpha weekly for you guys. And please, it'll help us so much if you smash that like button. I can see we've got 15 people, or 18 people live right now, and
Happy
only
days.
10 likes. So if you do want the alpha, if you do enjoy us taking our time out of our day to present for you guys, please show us that, and that'll continue to fuel us to make more for you guys. So keeping our eyes on Ethereum, I want to see that support reclaim around that 2470 mark, run that up for a long, same as Solana. I want to see Solana reclaim that level like I just showed you guys, and then I want to run that same thing back up to around the 205. So they're the
Happy
main
days.
focus. Look, and I know there's so many people out there sharing hundreds of thousands of altcoins. There's so many YouTubers out there that are like, this altcoin, that altcoin, this altcoin. This is the thing. Some of those may go up. But you know what the biggest issue with the market is right now? Is everything is so saturated. There is so many altcoins, and there's such little amount of retail money that can be spread amongst all these hundreds of thousands of altcoins. Now, that's why right now I'm focusing on the big ones. I'm focusing on ETH. I'm focusing on Bitcoin. That's my number one holding: Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, XRP. I hated XRP my whole entire life. But now that I found out that there's like a 90%, 95% even chance of an ETF approval, these ETF approvals allow for the big institutional money to come. And for us to start seeing higher price ranges when you've got market caps that are already so big, you're not going to get them unless you start getting that big institutional flow of money. And that's why I'm heavily more so focused on those coins rather than buying every shit coin that's basically on CoinGecko right now.
What you're saying, 100% agree with, because every shitcoin that is out there right now, there is so many. Liquidity starts to spread, money spreads out.
Yep.
But you know what? Those coins on eToro, keep mentioning,
Yeah.
those are the ones the mum and dads are going to buy relatively easy. It's the ones they know. It's the ones they're going to start investing in. It's the ones they're going to buy through the
Well, I'm going to ask our
and the
viewers, how many
ETFs.
of your friends or how many people do you know? Like, do you have anyone in your family that has ever come out to you and asked about XRP? Just let me know in the chat. My dad's a welder, and he has no idea. He doesn't even know how to use Gmail. But
Someone
he come
asked
up
him?
to me and he goes, Matt, do you know anything about a crypto coin? It's called XNG. And I was like, do you mean XRP? He goes, yeah, that's the one. If my dad is asking the question about XRP, then I know
I will
that other people are doing it too.
I will give a shout. My cousin said the same thing. She did ask me. She goes, Matt, about this XRP token. My friend keeps telling me about it. You're going to buy some. What's the go? So when the retail starts to hear that loud, it starts to become something.
Well, that's the thing. You can get 10,000 retail customers, retail traders, just like us guys. Go and buy a
Yeah,
coin. It's going to pump a coin this much. You go and get one institution, it's going to pump it this much.
it's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
So look, I'm following these institutional coins, and that's basically how I'm going to be running the next month. Yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch of other altcoin trades that we're going to share live with everybody.
We've got to do one
But
status update here.
what's that?
Share my screen.
Oh no.
We've got to do one status update.
We're going to look at one shit
We're
coin.
going to add one shit
We
coin
have
into
to
the
add
mix,
one.
guys.
It wouldn't be Empire
It
without
would
looking at
not
one
be
shit
Empire
coin.
without at least one
Go,
shit
Matty.
coin, Campbell.
This is all you.
Guys, I want to make it very well known. This is now sold out stage 3. We are officially at stage 4 with Little Pepe. Again, I'll make this very, very clear. This is a big gamble. This could ultimately be a
Yeah, oh,
rug,
yeah.
but I did buy some more this week. So I won't lie, I've got about 1 million tokens of this, maybe a little bit more.
Let us know in the chat if you think Matty's a filthy degen. Just
Yeah, look, I bought about $1,200 worth. I figured if I can get a 10x out of it, that's going to pay for a nice holiday. Either way, I don't care if I lose it. It's just one of those things. So hey, I just wanted to give a little shout because not for anyone to buy it, but the fact that we'd been monitoring it. So I figured we'd give a little update. We're at stage 4. That happened today. This goes up to stage 19. So we've got a couple of weeks left in this one. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, the only other alpha that I had, I don't know if you've seen this, and it's not so much related to crypto, but it is related to global governments.
Tell me.
They've decided at the NATO convention that they're going to be increasing that the NATO countries have agreed to increase their GDP or their expenditure in military to 5% of GDP. It's roughly about a 2% increase compared to what it was historically. And that means a hell of a lot of money. And me, what I did, I'm looking at military stocks. I'm just going to leave it there because that is a lot of money when 2% more of your GDP has to be spent on military. And that's what was agreed upon
What's
at the
happening
latest
with your
NATO
boy
convention.
Boeing? Lockheed and Steed, that's another big military stock. I'm not buying, for a big disclaimer, I'm not buying any of them myself.
I will say there is one that I'm waiting for an entry on, and it's called Drone Shield.
Ooh, okay. We'll have to keep an eye out for that one.
On the ASX. But we are not an ASX company. It's just something that I am interested in.
We are just a crypto trading.
We're crypto degens.
But you know what? While we're here, we thought we'd mention
Yeah.
that. Also, I don't know if you guys saw last thing, and then we're going to have to wrap it up, guys. And if you
We have an
haven't yet
event to get
liked,
to.
make sure that you do go ahead and like. But we do have a live Melbourne event that we need to get to in about an hour and a half. So we do have to cut this short. But did you know now they just released something where if you want to go and get a mortgage or a loan, you can use your crypto as now collateral.
In the US?
In the US.
I did see that.
I'm waiting for that to come to Australia. It's going to allow a lot of us crypto degens to go and buy houses, but also it's going to certify.
We did the opposite.
You did?
No, not us. The
What do you mean?
Australian government did the opposite.
Oh, of course. Of course we did. We're so backwards here in Australia. Yeah, I know, guys. We have kangaroos and all this kind of shit, and our government, they're backwards on crypto. But I won't go into that too much, otherwise I'll probably get taken off YouTube and
We'll get cancel culture.
I don't want to get cancelled by big. I don't even know what our prime minister.
Albanese.
Oh,
there.
yeah,
It's
anyway.
all right.
But yeah, one thing that's pretty cool is now we're seeing that Bitcoin, they're removing the risk profile for it with banks, and they're basically allowing people to hold that in order to get assets. And that helps in a fundamental standpoint because it'll take some selling pressure away, but also it'll increase buying pressure because now I can hold that. And as the price goes up, I can use that to borrow more money for the company. So I think that's fantastic. We'll start to see a lot more companies in the US start to accumulate.
Because also the banks the Fed came out and also advised banks to let people purchase by the bank.
It's
through
crazy.
crypto. So like it's complete shift altogether. Historically, I mean, in Australia, you have restrictions on how much you can withdraw for crypto. You've got to notify them, blah, blah, blah. The US is basically opening it completely to go, hey, you want to go transfer money to a crypto exchange? Go nuts.
The floodgates are open, ladies and gentlemen. So, guys, we have to wrap it up there. We hope you all enjoyed today's stream. A little bit of alpha there, a couple of coins that we're watching, and also some targets. Told you guys, make sure you watch at the start of this if you came in here late, where we talk about interest rate cuts and how that affects the markets. Did provide us with the last big pump from 50 to 100K, and that's about to hit within the next, we're going to call it 40 to 45 days. I think we are due for a new all-time high in the next 40 to 45 days. So go ahead, watch the replay. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to see you guys next week. Trade well and
catch you later.
Have a great weekend. Bye for now, fam. See you later.